What health and social care do you want? That's the question we at Llais have been asking the people of Wales. As the independent body that reflects the voices and represents the interest of the people in Wales, we want to know what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change so that we can create fairer and more balanced health and social care services for everyone. I'm Medwin Hughes, Chair of the Board of Llais, and today we're talking about who we are as an organisation and what we do. And I'll be talking with Ben Eaton, the Strategic Director at Llais. Ben, it's great to see you, and thank you for taking part in our strategic conversations. It's great that we're starting with you as the Strategic Director of Llais. So much has happened over the last 2 years, and it's great just to have a catch-up and to listen to you and to learn from you. Where are we on our journey? I'm sure people will be very interested to know what Llais is, who we are, what we do, and who we represent. And as one of the key senior officers of the organisation, you've played a really important role in the development of Llais. Take us through the journey.
Oh, it's been quite the journey in 2 years. I think when we first got set up, we took direction from the board. And we went out, we listened to people. We spent 100 days listening to people in communities trying to find out what they wanted from us. There's a legislation that sets out in black and white what the government set us up to do, but we wanted to know what people in communities wanted from us. So we did 100 days listening. We spoke to communities, we spoke to organisations, and they told us a few things. They said they wanted us to be independent, to be that honest voice, that broker between communities and services. They told us that they wanted to be focused on what people wanted, what communities wanted, but across the whole of Wales. Not necessarily the people that were always getting their voices heard by services, but those that hadn't. The other thing that they told us is they wanted us to focus on the good, the things that are working well as well, and to talk about those, as well as the things that weren't working so well. And to let services know and work with services to make them better, not just say the thing and then stand back. They wanted us to really work with them and continue to be that bridge between communities.
You make the point that we're independent, and we certainly are independent of government. Take me through the difference between Llais as it is today and the community health councils as we had for well over 50 years.
Well, I think fundamentally we've carried through that experience from working with health services. Of course, now the remit's expanded into social care, so there was new relationships to build up. There was new understanding to build up, to understand that, to work with communities to find out what they wanted from their social services and those people working in social services, and working with the third sector organisations to understand that as well. I think one of the biggest changes from what were the CHCs to Llais now is the power of representation. It's a really powerful thing. It's built into law, where we can take what we hear from people in communities, make a representation to a health body or to a local authority, and that they have to have due regard to that. And I think that really helps strengthen our independence, because we take what we hear, we base it on evidence, and then we make those representations. And the local authorities and the health boards, they've got a duty to consider that. And then tell us what they've done with that information, what they can or what they can't do to move forward most of the time based on what the communities have said.
You make the point about making representations, and it is much more than just listening. It's having regard then to those issues and interpreting them and taking those forward in partnership with organisations. Clearly, the strategic aims and objectives that Llais have developed over the last 2 years are at the heart of driving our agenda of change. It'd be good to learn more a little bit about those objectives.
Yeah, I think when we were considering everything we heard in that first 100 days and from other organisations as we were being set up, we were trying to understand what could guide us, and we ended up on 5 strategic areas. One was having a big national conversation. So what do the future of health and social services look like in the future? And really continuing to have that conversation with people about it. The second one was more about the here and now. So it's services that work for people now. The third was about working together. So this is about partnerships, but also us working with people in communities, but also the other people that are out there. There's third sector, there's the health and social services, there's health boards that we really need to work together, because it's not just something that each service can do on their own. The fourth was about digital. So we know that digital and data is going to play a big part in health and social services as we move forward. You've seen the advances in AI and how that's going to play a part. And some people are unsure about that. They're a bit worried about what happens if people have got what are they going to do with my data? How's AI going to do my tests? Does it work? And then the last thing was the last strategic area was about improving ourselves. We're a new organisation. We want to continuously learn, continuously improve. So that meant that we've got to really focus on the way we work, both internally and externally. So those were the real key drivers for us in setting up our strategy.
You know, those are really big areas, aren't they, of engagement? And one of the things that I'm always concerned about is those silent voices in Wales within our communities. Who really listens to them? We know that there are so many social issues, and we know that health and social care is at the heart of the agenda of change. What's your view on how do we capture those silent voices? How do we make sure that they are empowered and they really feel that what they are telling us is making a difference?
Yeah, it's a really good point, and it's something that we keep wanting to do better. I think first we've got to understand the people that we are speaking to. What people, what communities are we speaking to as Llais? The same for the services. So what are health boards? Who are they speaking to? Local authorities, who are they speaking to? Then we can see who's not having their voice heard. I think the real key thing here is partnerships. There will be people working with communities across Wales, right across Wales, where they've got trusted relationships with those people. I think we need to work with them to understand how those people want to engage with us, what works for them, what doesn't, and then with their partnerships go and speak to them. I think there can be a bit of mistrust at the moment in services listening to people, because we do hear quite a lot of the time that we've said this to one service or two services, or we said this before and it's not been acted upon. And I think that's where we can start to make a real difference. If we can really tell people about this power of representation, what we've said, what health boards, what social services are doing with what we have told them, and see the proof. Then they can see the proof, and they'll build up that trust in us as an organisation in an independent way.
There's so much consultation. There's so much call on people to offer their views. And people are telling us, we're tired of telling you. We've told you before. Nobody listens. How do we change that and make sure that once we do hear, that people realise that it will be acted upon, and we can work in partnership then to see real change?
I think we've got to think differently in terms of how we're asking the question, how we're working with people, and how we're getting the information. I think we've got to be more transparent about what we're saying and how we're working with health and social services. We've got to let people know what we've said, what they've said as a result. People want to see proof. They want to see you said, we did, and this is the outcome, this is the impact. But really, mostly, it's going to be about how it feels. So if we say something about a service, be it emergency departments, be it maternity services, that we've said that, an organisation has listened and then they've put something in place. The key thing there is how it feels to go and use those services down the line. And that'll be the real proof.
We've always said that we're a national institution, statutory, clearly engaged in the context of legislation, hopefully making a difference. We're a trusted voice of the people of Wales, but as you've just said, we are also rooted within communities. How important is that local identity of Llais, and how do we maximise that in our listening and our engagement?
Yeah, it's vital. It's really vital. I think we have the mantra in Llais of local, regional, national. So real local listening and using that, moving around, speaking to different communities in the locality to build up a regional picture. Then you have the regional picture, and then we have the 7 regions that feed into the national picture and the overall picture of what a service is feeling like. But it's different. How it feels in North Wales is going to be extremely different to how it feels in Cardiff. How it feels in rural parts of Powys is going to feel very different to rural parts of Halvar and West Wales. What we need to do is amplify both the local, the regional, and the national. So we use those things to listen. So we do things like Llais Local, where we go into an area, be it a village or a town, for a week, 2 weeks. We listen to the local communities. We go and visit GPs. We go and visit care homes, and we hear from people, so we know how it feels on the ground in that locality. We do the same things. We make representations. We work with services to try and improve things, or to celebrate the things that are working in that area. Then when we move to the next town or village, we can understand a kind of a regional picture. Is it the same there? Yes or no? And how can those 2 different areas learn from each other on the things that are working? That all drives the kind of the insights that we hear that we can then feed into national policies. So, we work with replying to consultations, calls for evidence. We work with policymakers and the Welsh Government to say, this is what we're hearing, but this is the difference from what we're hearing. This is what we've heard in North Wales or Cardiff or Newport, and these are the things that you need to think about in shaping those national policies.
You refer to partnerships and the importance of partnerships, and we all know that it takes time to build meaningful, sustainable partnerships. It's about trust. It's about identifying common language, common areas of engagement. But at the end of the day, we are independent. We are there to listen and then to act, and not to be afraid to make representations. Can that be difficult sometimes, keeping partnerships alive, but also, if required, standing and making formal representations to identify this must change? We realise we must see change in these areas?
Yeah, it can be challenging, but I think we've always approached our relationships with services on that basis, that we are the independent voice. We're working with you to improve the services. But yeah, definitely, we're not afraid that if we're hearing things that aren't right and things aren't changing quick enough, then we're not afraid to put in those bold representations to keep at it as well. It's not like we're just going to say something and then let it be not taken into account, not fed back to us how that's moved forward. And if it's still unsatisfactory, especially for the people that we speak to, then we'll keep pushing. We really need to amplify people's voices. That's, it's part of our mantra, our purpose, our vision, our mission. We want to amplify those voices. So, I think it can be challenging. And it's a different relationship with every service that we work with. It looks different. There's different people involved. But yeah, we're definitely not afraid to point things out and to make some bold statements. I think we've seen that over the last couple of years. We picked up some things through our complaints advocacy service and our engagement about maternity services in the Swansea Bay area, and we weren't afraid to do some work on that and to say some quite bold things that needed to change. Also the same with same-day urgent care across Wales, actually, that we were hearing some things that needed to be heard by policymakers, by services, things that really needed to change. So we're not afraid to be bold. Yes, we are in a relationship. We have a professional relationship that we need to maintain, but really our commitment is to the people and communities of Wales.
You say not afraid of being bold, and you refer there to 2 key reports which Llais focused on over the last 12 months. The Swansea Bay maternity report and then the A&E emergency report. We said a lot in those reports. Has it made any difference?
I think it has. I think you'll see from the maternity one, for instance, our report, along with reports from partners, plus the Commission's review within the Swansea Bay area, has all led to a big government review of maternity services. It's led to the establishment of something called Maternity Voices Partnership Cymru, And we were approached as Llais, as that independent voice, to help chair that, so that we can hear from partners and all of the local health boards about maternity and neonatal services. So there are those things. There are some smaller changes as well that we put in our report that have been taken on board, like the learning development for some of the staff working there, some of the cultural change programs that are going in place. So I think it is making a difference. Look, some of this is going to take time and some of it's going to be a quicker. But what we really want is people to start feeling some confidence in those types of services, and that they can see that they're trying to improve, be that it might take some time. The same for the emergency departments and the A&E. There's been some more high-level changes there, I think. So there's a kind of strategic group that's meeting to discuss some of the things that would make a difference to put in place. Also, I would say some of the impacts, just shining light on these things, making sure that there's a national conversation about them, and making sure that everything from politicians to local services to communities know what's going on in these areas.
I want to follow through, if I may, on some of those themes. I think you're right in making the statement. It is making a difference. And we are seeing, based upon what people are telling us, that there are structural changes, not only within the systems linked with health and social care, but what we also know in the context of the engagement with ministers in government. And you refer to service changes. That's a key part that we play in Llais, in engaging in change, in system change. Interesting to hear more about the engagement and how we approach all of that.
Yeah, so each of the health boards and the local authorities approach service change as a kind of formal process. So it's different in both. So in health, there's statutory guidance around around how the services have to engage communities. So we work with them in the partnership way that we have been to understand what are the big service changes that are coming up, when will they be, how will you engage with people, and we use the experience that we have and what we're hearing to help feed that in. So that happens before it even sometimes comes and is announced publicly about what's going to change. So what we try and do is help steer it in the right way and speak and work with the service before it's launched. Then when it's launched, we, especially with things that we know are really going to matter to people, we try and be there. We try and hear firsthand what people and communities are saying to the services. And then what we do is we work with the service to make sure that they're representing what we're hearing and what people are telling them. If they're not, or if they've interpreted something in a different way, then we'll point that out. Also, if we don't think enough engagement's been done with the right people, we talked earlier about the different types of communities, we help point that out. We help say, well, I don't think you spoke to this community, or this community said something different to us, so you really need to go and speak to them. And we're not afraid to say that either. We're not afraid to say this won't be a consultation that's long enough, or the engagement doesn't look quite right. So that's how we work with them in service change. There is a bit of a difference because as Llais and the community health councils, the community health councils had a different role in service change. I think that's changed and evolved, and I think some people who have worked with us in the past, it's a bit of a difference for them because not everything comes through us in terms of service changes. And as you said earlier, there's so much going on, so much change that we can't be involved in every single service change. We try and work with health boards, with local authorities and communities on the ones that really matter to them the most.
What would you say, Ben, are the key safeguards that we need to be mindful of when we're looking to safeguards? We're talking about people. We're talking about their lives. People that are suffering in a range of issues linked to the economy, linked to social issues, all affecting health and social care. As these national institutions undertake change, as they look to structural change, what are the key markers that we must always be mindful of as an organisation?
I think first and foremost, right at the top, it's safety. Everyone has to feel safe. They want to feel safe. They want to rely on the service. If they need it, it will be there and it will be safe. That's the fundamental one. I think people want to be involved in their health and social services. They want to have a voice in how it's delivered. So I think that's really important to get that across. And then we hear things like dignity and people-centred and communication. Those are stuff that we hear all the time, and we need services to respond to that. So if you're looking at big structural changes, okay, that's the big stuff. The stuff that really matters is the stuff that touches people at the service, how they feel, how they're treated, and how they're communicated with. But overall, they've got to feel safe, and they've got to trust those services.
You mentioned the word conversation, and of course, we've entered and started a process of the big conversation, asking a very simple question: what's the health and social care we want as the people of Wales? This is at the heart of our strategy. Interesting to hear more about that.
So the health and social care we want has been a fantastic project. I think it's an evolution of the things that we were hearing in the first couple of years. And we've gone out and we've spoken to a wide range of people and communities. We've done surveys, we've done online, we've done in person, we've done a range of one-to-one interviews where people can share their stories with us. And as you said, it's all about the future of health and social care. What's that going to look like? What does that feel like to me? And it's been really interesting hearing those differences, but also then the themes. There's clear themes that are coming out of that, and we can really use that to help shape how health and social services are going to look like, how the big and the small, how is the whole service going to treat people, and how's it going to work on the ground. So I think it comes back to some of the things I said earlier. People have told us about dignity, feeling safe, communication, wanting to feel part of the conversation and how those services work for them. But ultimately, I think we want to really shine a light on people's experiences, their stories, and that's a big strength of the project, is that it's going to surface all of those for policymakers, for politicians, for service designers to hear from the people, from those stories, from those experiences, and how they can improve health and social services over the next 10, 20, 30 years and really make it work for people.
And that's so important, of course, in shaping the health and social care system we want as the people of Wales for the next 20, 30 years. It's about rights, but it's also about responsibilities, and a strong focus there on educating people to take responsibility. What are the key themes that are coming out of that?
I think the biggest one was that people are ready for it. I think people want to know, what is it, the things that I can do to keep myself healthy, or know where to go to get maybe a social service. But they want to work with services. They're ready for that change. I think for a long time, some people have felt done to, but they're really ready to take a step in the right direction there. We talk a lot about prevention. It's a policy word that you hear go around, but it's just very much about, how do I stay safe, healthy, and how do I live well for longer? And I think people are really ready for that. I think that was the biggest takeaway in terms of responsibilities. I think for services, health and social services, they need to respond to that. Their responsibility in all of this is to provide the information, to, as you say, to help educate people so they can understand, where do I go for X, where do I go for Y?
One of the themes that we certainly hear as we engage across Wales is a real cry for more community integrated care. People are telling us, invest more in services within our communities. Always difficult, the cost to the public purse. What are we hearing as part of the big conversation about integrated care closer to home?
As you say, I think people really want that and they really value it. I think what's coming through is, for some of the more specialised services, people understand they may have to travel a little bit further for those, where the expertise is maybe kind of regionalised. But in terms of having that integrated model in the community, there's a real appetite for that. And when I say integrated, it's both integrated between health and social care, so there's one place for both, but also integrated in community within each of those. So different aspects of the health service that are talking to each other, different aspects of social services that are talking to each other. We're looking to do a piece of work on that in this year, looking at the new integrated community care hubs. How are those that have been in place? How are those working for people? What's their experiences? And then again, we can feed that back and say, these are the things that are working, these are the things that are not. And as we go more in that direction, these are the things that you should be thinking about before you put these services in place.
You know, you're focusing on the word integration, and you're focusing on the word of community and regions. An effective health and social care system has to have regard to geography. It has to be engaged in an appropriate manner, linked to the needs of the people within their communities. And the exciting part, I think, Llais can play here is that we are looking to health and social care of the possible interface and, who knows, the integration of systems. For the people of Wales, they're not interested in systems. They just want effective care. And what role has Llais to play in that conversation?
Well, I think we've just got to keep doing what we're doing, but we've got to step it up. We've got to amplify it. We've got the things in place, listening locally, regionally and nationally, to really play it back to local services. I think a real key thing for us going forward is going to be looking at the things that work well, but not necessarily looking at the service that works well. It's like the principle underneath that, because like you said, the geography of Wales is so different. So what may work over in Carmarthen may not work in Newport, but there may be principles that have worked there that would work in Newport. So it's about how we do that, how we celebrate that, how we share it, and then how services respond to that. Services need to find a way about sharing their good practice more, I think. But yeah, it's about the principles, because it's not going to be a lift and shift, one size fits all. It's going to have to look at differences and adaptation.
And I suppose as you focus on the principles, there's then the whole conversation between the providers, the policymakers, and the politicians, and making sure that all of them are engaged in a single integrated conversation. Do we feel at the moment that there is an integrated conversation in Wales linking health and social care?
I think the scaffolding's there, the structures are there. I think the direction of travel's been, that's where we should be. Is it necessarily working in practice? I'm not sure at the moment. I don't think people are feeling it. And I think that's the test, isn't it? Do people feel that their health and social care is integrated, joined up? At the moment, we hear a lot that it's not. So we see things like the discharge practices from hospitals where maybe people are discharged either when they're not ready, or then there's the opposite. There's people that aren't discharged from hospital because the care package isn't in place for them to leave. And I think that's what matters to people. It's going to be those things that they feel, and that's how they feel integration and joined up services, and it's not being consistently felt at the moment.
A big word is accountability. Accountability through the system. What role does Llais have in the process of accountability and calling people, institutions, partners to account?
Yeah, I think there's the accountability framework that's been put in place by the Welsh Government. I think our role really is on the kind of quality and safety aspect, and it's a kind of a scrutiny role. One of the things that's in legislation, it describes how we represent the best interests of people. Now, we wouldn't be doing our job if we didn't point things out when they're not working for people in terms of accountability, because that is representing the best interests of people. Services need to be held to account and be accountable of their services. We do things like we sit on quality and safety committees and things like that, but that's the high level stuff. The things that we do that I think would matter to people, we do visits. So we go to a hospital, we go to a GP, or we go to a care home. We do that to speak to people about their experiences. But also if we hear things that aren't right, that should be pointed out, we do that. But we do that then and there. We don't wait to a quality and safety committee to do that. So we would point that out, and that's about people being accountable on the ground. And to be fair to services, they're usually really responsive to that. But we also use all that intelligence that we pick up across the whole of Wales to play that back into the accountability frameworks that have been set up.
You referred in this conversation to digital and to collating information. At the heart of a good system is good, effective data, but not only capturing data, but sharing data. And one of the concerns I have is that we're not celebrating enough and also not publishing enough data from our different partners across Wales. And this is an issue I know that came up with the Minister, where he made a request that more information is put out in the public domain. People want information. People want to see that there is real change. What role does Llais have in this context?
I would say that our role would be, it's in that kind of scrutiny space, in that accountability space. It's about asking for the right information to start with. And then, as you say, make that publicly available. I think the key is to make it relevant to the people that are trying to find it. So there's a lot of national level data out there. That doesn't necessarily translate. That's not what people want to understand. They want to understand what's it like where I live, what's it like in the area, the region I live, and how does that compare to other areas? Because people have the right to the same sort of service no matter where they live. I think that's where data tells a story. I think we touched on integration and joined up services. I think joined up data is a really big thing. Can your GP share your data with the hospital seamlessly? Can the hospital share your data with social services easily so that it's person-centered? You know, there's this flow. It's just health or social services. It doesn't matter to the people what colour uniform people have got on or what service is what. They expect their data to be shared in the best way for them that helps their journey through a health and social service. So I think that needs to improve. And I think there's a lot of people trying to work on that. Our role, again, is to try and be alongside that and play back what people are telling us, making sure that services are listening to that.
You've referred in this conversation to the importance of partnership and of developing good relationships, and that's key. We are here to support not only the people of Wales, to listen to the people of Wales, but to work with the various bodies that are linked with health and social care. But take me through, I think, the area of advocacy. This is a key part of the work of Llais. How are we going to take forward the importance of advocacy within the context of our work?
Yeah, so the Complaints Advocacy Service, obviously it works with people who would like to complain about health and social services. We support the person to articulate what they want to say and to navigate what can sometimes be quite complex complaints. Why it's really, really key for us is we get to help people. We get to make an impact for them individually, but also 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some learning for the service, be that a change of guidance, change of policy, development that staff could do to understand this person's need or what they didn't have met, their need met in the complaint. It's really, really key for us. Our advocates really love that they get to help people, but also as an organisation, what it really helps us do is surface some of that the early things that need to change. Quite often we see that the complaints themes that come through the Complaints Advocacy Service match our engagement, what we're hearing, but sometimes they don't. And that's normally a bit of a red flag. It's something that's an issue that's starting to develop because people are complaining about it through the official channels. So it can be really, really important for us. It helps us highlight and strengthen the evidence that we're taking to our partners to say, look, these things aren't right. Also, it helps strengthen our scrutiny role as well, because we can take that to the quality, to the safety committees in health and social services and say, look, we've seen an increase in the complaints about, I don't know, about communication or access to GPs, that kind of thing. And we can help, it helps us to work with them to shine a light on that and then take through some impact at a regional, national policy level.
You use the word impact. And of course, Llais is more than just capturing the voices of the people of Wales. It's capturing, it's listening, But unless we make a difference, then we fail in our responsibilities. We're a new organisation, and yet already, and you've referred to several reports where we have had impact. Take me through the importance of that impact and how that will continue to really drive the agenda for Llais for the next 5-10 years of engagement.
Yeah, I mean, it's why we're all in it. We hear it from every staff member, every volunteer that works for us. They want to make an impact. They want to make a difference. For us, it's really key that we don't stop trying to make impact. And that looks like, as you said, we plan who we're going to go and speak to, how we're going to listen. We hear that. We then talk to services, and then we wait for them to respond, or sometimes we chase them up to respond. What are you going to do? Have you given due regard to the things that have been said and what's going to change? And then we're able to play that back to the communities that have taken the time to share their thoughts with us. Now, that's impact in itself, but we need to keep taking it a step further. What's the outcome of the thing that's changed? And then how's it felt? Be that 2 weeks, 2 years down the line for service, for future people that are going to use that service. Is it making a real difference? Is it improving? Is it what people want? And that's what we mean by impact. And like I say, some things can be almost instant. We can make an impact. It could be a change. One example I remember was there was a step was broken, and it was pointed out to us. Now, that's quite a strange thing to point out, but it meant that some people couldn't get into the service they were trying to use. So we pointed that out, and it was changed. It was changed within a week. There are other things that are going to take years to change that we will continue advocating for, that we'll keep pushing for, that we'd like to see change.
At the heart of that change is reflective practice of institutions, organisations taking responsibility and being honest and saying, yes, we need to change this for the benefit of the citizen or of the patient. And as we talk of more integrated community care, take me through the importance of those local, regional partnerships boards that have got statutory responsibilities for bringing the different players, the different parts of this conversation together. How well are they working, and how does Llais engage in that conversation?
Yeah, look, I don't think any one organisation can do this on its own. Things can't change if it's just one organisation, and Llais can't do it on its own, but we will keep pushing and we will keep advocating and challenging organisations to listen to people and communities. There's regional partnership boards in each of the 7 areas across Wales, and they're looking at an integrated community system. They bring together health boards, local authority, social services, third sector, and others. And we go to all of those. We're part of those boards as well. We attend with speaking rights, but we don't have voting rights. We do that so we can just play back honestly, transparently what people are telling us. You asked the question, are they working well? I think we're hearing mixed things. There's different impacts being felt in different communities. So there's always improvements that can be made, I think. As we go forward, we've talked a lot about joined up services and integration, these are going to be a really, really important place for change to happen, for services to be in the communities and integrated. Each of the regional partnership boards has access to different funds to help support that community-based provision. How they use those and how the services are experienced, that's going to be really key, and that's where we can play a part in the future. We'll keep listening. We'll keep playing back to the regional partnership boards how those communities are experiencing those services in their local communities, and that will be a big strength of ours, is to keep doing that, to keep being at the table and making sure that the regional partnership boards are hearing the voice of people through Llais.
We'll be at the table, you say. We'll be playing back. Does playing back also mean focusing on the accountability? You refer to specific funds for integrated engagement between health and social care. Does playing back mean calling institutions, entities to account that those funding opportunities are really used for meaningful integrated care and social engagement?
Yeah, I think it does. I think how those are being felt and how long it's taking. That's a big thing that we hear as well. People want to see some change. They want to feel some change. They want to feel it soon. I think challenging, be that we've seen this work in one area, why aren't you doing it, and vice versa. I think that's really important. I think Welsh Government, obviously, they have the funds. There'll be scrutiny on how they're used. But yeah, I think we would, this is part of our scrutiny role, we'd point that out to the regional partnership boards.
Listening, supporting, advocacy, engaging, scrutiny. These are some of the words that you've used in this strategic conversation. And as we bring the conversation to a close, looking back on 2 years of engagement, what do you think are the 3 key achievable outcomes that Llais has managed to engage and demonstrated added value?
The 3 things. I think 1 would be the strength of local, regional, and national. We're making a difference on a local level and a regional, and we've been able to take that to a national level, be that national policymakers, services, or politicians. I think that's been a real key strength. I think, secondly, in terms of engagement and the way that we engage, the way that we've worked with partners, how we've built up community-led partnerships so we can hear from more people, that has been a real strength. And then the third has been how we've used that, the representations that we've made. Now, I know not everyone gets to see all of those, and definitely we need to be better at showing that. These are the things we've said to services, this is how they've responded, and we want to do that. But it's been really powerful, both on an individual level and a kind of local policy level. There's been some big changes, and it's been, I think really well welcomed by those communities. And I think we've just got to build on that. I think I'd like to see us in the future making more changes at a big level, at policy level, national level, a structural level. But those things have to feel different to people. There's no point making those changes if when they go to use a service, it feels the same. And I think that we can do that. And I think that's where I'd like to see us go next.
It's been great having this conversation with you. We're focusing on Llais, the voice of the people. But what I'm listening and what I'm hearing from you is that Llais is going to be used in a very structured way, in a partnership way, to really make a difference and build accountability and to support that structural change that we all want to see in the health and social care system for the future for Wales. Ben, many thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Health and Social Care We Want. Llais are always looking to hear your views and experiences of using health and social care services across Wales. And you can find out more about how you can join the conversation by visiting our website at www.llaiscymru.org or following us on social media.